Resurrection of the Daleks, the fourth serial of Doctor Who's 21st season, first broadcast in two 45-minute parts from the 8th to the 15th of February 1984. Now, this was originally supposed to be a four-part story of 25 minutes each. However, a change of schedule at the BBC at the time caused it to be edited together into two 45-minute episodes. Now, supposedly around this time, Peter Davison, Mark Strickson and Janet Fielding had all expressed an interest in leaving Doctor Who, saying, okay, I think it's time for us to bow out. But rather than do one big Exodus story, as they had done for Patrick Troughton's final story, The War Games, the producers decided instead to have three separate exit stories so that they could focus each time on each character. And the first of these is, of course, Janet Fielding as Tegan Jovanka. And therefore we led to Resurrection of the Daleks. Now in this story, the TARDIS is caught in a time corridor, which turns out to be the work of the Daleks. They have a spaceship and they've just docked with a space station that is holding Davros, played by Terry Malloy, hostage. Keeping him in cryogenic story following on from Destiny of the Daleks. Now, they're keeping him prisoner, but the Daleks want him for a very specific reason. See, in the 5 years since, the Daleks had been at war with an alien race called the Movellans, and the Movellans had eventually won the war by developing a virus that attacked Dalek matter. Now, as I said with the Seeds of Death, this must have been great fun for the props department. I mean, with the Seeds of Death, they got to work with a whole load of bubble bath. With this time, it was shaving cream, or at least some type of cream, which gave identified as crushing a Dalek shell and kind of the shaving cream coming out of their vents, which, I gotta admit, looks like a lot of fun for them. But, anyway, the Movellan virus destroys Daleks, so the Supreme Dalek wants Davros revived pretty much to provide a cure for the Movellan virus and then kill him, because he sees Davros as a threat to him. Now this, in turn, sets off the Dalek Civil War, a storyline which would pretty much have a trilogy in the 1980s, starting with Resurrection of the Daleks, moving into Revelation of the Daleks, and then ending with Remembrance of the Daleks. And having watched those other two stories, I'd probably say that Resurrection of the Daleks is the weakest of the Dalek Civil War trilogy. Now that's actually a good thing, because considering this was the first one, it actually meant that the series got better as time went on. So, yeah. Now, the Doctor, of course played by Peter Davison, and his two companions, Turlough, played by Mark Strickson, and Tegan, they end up following the time corridor that the Daleks have created, which eventually leads them to the London location of Butler's Wharf, where they find a group of resistance fighters and various characters, including Steen, played by famous 60s and 70s actor Rodney Bewes, Styles, who's the kind of leader of the space station being attacked, played by Rula Lesker, Lytton, played by Maurice Colburn, who would eventually pop up again in Attack of the Cybermen later down the line. Here he's kind of one of the Daleks' henchmen. And of course, Davros, played by Terry Malloy. Now, as I said, while the Supreme Dalek plans to kill Davros once the antidote for the Movellan virus is developed, Davros has his own plans and manages to reprogram two of the Daleks to serve specifically him, and see him as the ultimate creator. Which is kind of understandable considering how Genesis of the Daleks ended, with the Daleks following their programming and believing that anything that wasn't Dalek should be exterminated. And they do manage to do a lot of good stuff here. I mean, even Davros's plan, he doesn't want to kill the Doctor outright. I mean, he does ultimately want to kill the Doctor, but what he wants to do is essentially clone the Doctor, so he has a version of the Doctor under his control, along with Turlough and Tegan. And I mean, when his plan is actually rather sinister. I mean, when the Doctor is being strapped down to a table by Stein, who was kind of battling throughout most of the episode, trying to keep the Dalek side of his mind and the human side of his mind separate, it is quite gripping stuff. Now, As I said, the stuff with the shaving cream coming out of the Dalek's vents, it's humorous, but it's also rather effective, especially as a virus. But, as I said, while this story does have a lot of fun stuff, and it is the start of the Dalek Civil War storyline, which would get better as time went on, it is also the departure episode for Tegan. And I gotta admit, the ending especially did make me feel sad for her and rather hollow, as pretty much everyone has to be killed. Like even Davros somehow manages to do so. Like both he and the Doctor end up releasing portions of the Magellan virus in order to kill the Daleks. But even by doing that, Davros ends up dying himself. By the most of his lower half is now Dalek technology, which the virus attacks. And anyway, as I said, at the end of it all, Tegan just said, "There's been too much death today. I can't do this anymore." And even when the Doctor and Turlough question her about it, she's just like, "My aunt told me when I became a flight stewardess that if it ever stops being fun, give it up. And this has stopped being fun anymore." And I gotta admit, that did make me feel kind of sad for her, hollow, and I understood entirely why she did it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do feel a lot more for the companions who are ripped away from the Doctor or have some degree of tragedy happen to them that wrenches them away, such as the likes of Rose, Donna, Amy, and the like. But while hers is definitely displayed as tragic, she definitely has a bit more in common with Martha, Graham, and Ryan rather than she does with the others. I mean, she had seen so much death that day that making the decision to just walk away, it did feel very well earned. Especially after a story with so many exterminations, so many guns, so much action, so much death, that I could definitely understand why her character would do that. And even her final words, just once the TARDIS has departed, of "Braveheart Tegan, I'll miss you, Doctor." Even that felt earned for her. I mean, as I said, I haven't seen all of Tegan's adventures yet. There are two from this particular season that I am missing that, who knows, I might get some time. Frontiers and Planet of Fire. But, yeah, this definitely felt like a good send-off for her. This was Janet Fielding's exit, and we still had two more to come. One of which I have reviewed, one of which I haven't. But as I said, with the two others, I do feel that Resurrection of the Daleks is probably the weakest of the Dalek Civil War storyline. But it did get better later on with Revelation and Remembrance. I think Remembrance is the strongest, Revelation second place, Resurrection, I'd say, is at the bottom. But it started off a great storyline. So there you go, that's my quick little review of Resurrection of the Daleks. Probably the weakest of the Dalek Civil War trilogy, but a great exit for Tegan as a companion. Anyway, will be my next Class Doctor Who story I review? Honestly, at this point, I don't know. I'll let you know when I do. Anyway, until next time, see ya.